The Ourang Medan. What really happened? After the horror game Until Dawn became a hit, it motivated Supermassive Games to produce a whole series of horror games as part of a series called the Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan. In the horror game Man of Medan, we try to keep 5 main characters alive through a pirate raid and during a visit inside a ghost ship. But there is no guarantee that everyone will survive. With the production of films like Friday the 13th, Scream and Saw since the 1980s, there seems to be no end of stream with regard to slasher horror films, where the main characters got killed one after another by their adversaries by natural or supernatural phenomenon. In this video, I would like to share my understanding of the mysterious history surrounding the tragic event of the SS Ourang Medan. Ghost stories have been passed down from generation to generation throughout the years, and we have a particular fascination in those stories, which reside in the ocean, to be specific. Ranging from the Flying Dutchman, the Marie Celeste, to the Kraken, these eerie and often downright terrifying stories we have all heard of at least once. There is an even more disturbing phenomenon that happened not only to abandoned ships on the vast ocean, but rather the crew themselves. The most bone-chilling story of them all is arguably the case of the SS Ourang Medan, one which shocks us all to hear. Depending on where you look for information, varying accounts place this event between June of 1947 to as late as February of 1948. A simple radio SOS distress signal was said to have been received by multiple ships which were traveling along the Straits of Malacca, which is between Sumatra and Malaysia. The message itself has been reported to have been in Morse code that was impossible to decipher. What we know of the frightening message was simple, yet didn't have to be anything more. The message follows. All officers, including the captain, are dead, lying in chart room and the bridge, possibly whole crew dead. This first transmission was followed by a set of indecipherable Morse code sequences until they received one last transmission. I die. No more transmissions were received following this chilling end. The two ships which had received and deciphered this distress signal, both American, had proceeded to investigate, alongside the help of 2 listening posts, one British and one Dutch. An American merchant ship named the Silver Star was the first to reach the Ourang Medan. After waving and yelling down the boat for signs of life on deck, they finally decided to board upon sending out a rescue team. As soon as they stepped foot on the scene, they realized the distress signals were not exaggerated in any way, as they were faced with a blood-curdling nightmare. Upon the ship, there were nothing but corpses, eyes wide with horror, and mouths wide open in what seemed like an eternal scream. Their arms outstretched before them, as if to try and stop something from reaching them.
Help me. Help.
Every crew member revealed the same horrified facial expression, all trying to fight something off. Each one of the crew members' body all having gone cold by the time they were discovered. No one person was spared, not even the crew's dog. The horrifying death that had awaited every crew member and was found snarling, frozen in place. Every crew member was where they were expected to be. The captain on the bridge and the crew scattered around at various workstations. Most chillingly, the radio operator sat in his chair with the same twisted expression on his face. his last action having been to send out his final message to the two ships which had received it. While searching, the rescue party had noticed multiple things that had not settled well with any of them. First, the local temperature was roughly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and yet every member of the rescue team was certain a chill was emanating from somewhere on the ship. Second, the conditions of the victims were particularly peculiar. None of them had any noticeable injuries on their bodies of any sorts. The only indication of their death was the terrified expression that resided on each of their faces. They were also decaying much quicker than their bodies should be, for ones that had only recently died. Finally, the ship itself didn't have any noticeable damage on the inside or outside of it, aside from that of normal wear and tear. After everything was taken note of, the Silver Star decided to tow the Ourang Medan to port. Towing them to port was to allow them to investigate further and try to make sense of the situation. As they began to tow it, however, smoke began to rise from the lower decks. Barely a few moments once the cord was severed did the Ourang Medan explode. The explosion is described as being a blast that big that the entire ship lifted herself from the water and swiftly sank. The blast took with it all of the answers to the many questions the ship brought with it. Or so we are told. The story of Ourang Medan is one that varies slightly in details, depending on which version you know. Some accounts are called too detailed, due to some stating that the smoke started from the number 4 hold, or that the dog who had died was a small terrier. No matter which version of the story you know, the main story remains the same. The entire crew of the Ourang Medan had suffered a blood-curdling death, and then promptly exploded and sank before any questions could be answered. Let us examine the theories that could cause the strange death of the crew members, including the dog. Theory 1. Carbon monoxide poisoning. The inventor of the term Bermuda Triangle and American author Vincent Gaddis has speculated that it could have been due to carbon monoxide poisoning. The theory stems from the idea that the malfunctioning boiler system had produced carbon monoxide fumes which had poisoned the crew slowly. Carbon monoxide poisoning is where the carbon monoxide enters the bloodstream and prevents the blood cells from carrying oxygen. This poisoning can result in dizziness, vomiting, seizures, loss of consciousness, then followed by death. The hole in this theory, however, is just that, holes. The ship was not an enclosed space. Even if it were, those above deck would have been spared from carbon monoxide poisoning, if that were so. Theory 2. Pirates. Another theory is that pirates had invaded the ship and killed everybody on board. The problem with this theory is that it does not follow the accounts that nobody had any wounds on their body, which pirates would have left. It does, however, stick true to the trend of numerous pirates along the Straits of Malacca, dating back to the 14th of a century. Theory 3. Ghosts. One of the most repeated theories is that it was in fact ghosts. This theory will explain the chill that the rescue crew felt in the ship compared to the heat outside, as well as the terrified expression all the crew had. While this theory doesn't have many followers, what is a scary story without a ghost did it theory after all? That's what inspires Supermassive Games to develop a game based on this event. Theory 4. Aliens. Well, this theory seems far-fetched, but it is quite famous nonetheless, with multiple books written specifically for it. You could say aliens killed the Ourang Medan crew. Just like the ghosts theory, this theory brings nothing new but controversial claims with no proof at all to back them. Most only stipulate as to why pieces of evidence are nowhere to be found. Theory 5. The cargo holds dangerous materials. This theory sounds close to being logical, and it was brought forth by Professor Theodor Siasdorfer of Essen in Germany. He dedicated about half a decade to understand what happened to the SS Ourang Medan and its crew. He has published a booklet and was authenticated by one of the crew that was aboard the Silver Star. It states the name of the captain and also the ship's route. Also, what was written in the book is that the cargo holds potassium cyanide and nitroglycerin. Both of these chemicals are known to be really dangerous and volatile. It is inadvisable to transport these chemicals on ships that sails throughout the sea. Theory 6. The cargo holds hazardous biological weapons. Another solid theory concerning what happened to the crew of the SS Ourang Medan is related to biological weapons designed and made by Japanese scientists, led by Japanese bacteriologists referred to as Shiro Ishii. Ishii was part of Unit 731 that performed horrendous experiments on American, British, and Australian prisoners of war. These experimentations were even more cruel than the Nazi experiments. His research includes making hazardous biological and chemical weapons to help eliminate Japan's enemies. The chemical weapons were shipped in secret from one country to another, which eventually got leaked onto the ship, therefore leading to the crew's death and caused the final explosion that sunk the SS Ourang Medan. To conclude my analysis of the theories listed above, Theory 5 and Theory 6 were the most plausible theories regarding the SS Ourang Medan and its strange demise. Likewise, there are also different speculations which don't have as much proof. Any individual who truly know about what befell the SS Ourang Medan didn't come forward, that brought this disastrous event into one of the most popular ghost ship stories until today.